Hello everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Now let's start with today's topic. Now we have talked to each other quite a lot about the aspects of happiness, from the type of happiness when you can do something you like, happiness when you live a meaningful life, happiness when you create something, create values for your surroundings. But there is another type of happiness that I don't want to mention, which is the happiness that everyone thinks of first when we mention happiness, which is the happiness that comes from love. Love is something that can create a lot of happiness, and the kind of happiness it creates is also the most intense emotions. But at the same time, it also creates a lot of suffering for us if we don't know how to control it. But the irony is that hardly anyone teaches us how to love or how to control love. My love, please note that I said I am in control of my love, not in control of the person I love. When I talk about this part, I'm sure there will be many people who think that if you love, then just love. Why do you have to know how to love? If love is also prepared, it's not an emotion anymore, but I bet. Personally, I think this way of thinking is similar to when we embark on an important journey without any preparation. Surely you still remember the concept of risk and recklessness. I shared in the previous episode. In today's episode we will share with you again my perspectives and experiences in this aspect. It may be very different from what you are familiar with up to now, but I believe that after listening to it, you will find it reasonable, and maybe it is the same things that surround you. If you consider it normal, it is abnormal. First is the perspective on love. Now let's look back at the love stories that we often see around us. Most people, when they love each other, aim for that goal, to laugh at each other. When they get married, they will have 100 years of happiness. Something that sounds so obvious that not many people stop to ask the question of why loving each other means getting married and why getting married is the right thing to do. Set the goal of living together for life. When we think a little more carefully, we will think about the unreasonableness of those thoughts. We are lucky. We met each other. It is difficult to meet the person to love, but after a period of love, each other. People want to own each other, and one of the most common actions to ensure that ownership is that we register marriage and we get married. Then when we have the wedding, we sign that marriage certificate. We think that thanks to those things, we will be together forever. We will have hundreds of years of happiness. But from our perspective, in my opinion, following this chain of actions is very unreasonable, and worse, it is the cause of many problems that take away our happiness. Because firstly, the person we love is not a commodity that we put a ring on and then declare ownership, and secondly, more importantly, we should keep the feeling of happiness. We are with each other when we are together, not trying to keep that person, because even if we can keep that person by our side and no longer feel happy, keeping it like that is not enough. What does it mean now that we think? Let's look back at the root of the problem. Why do we come together? The only reason is to have more happiness, which means our lives are already happy. We already have happiness. Now that we have more love, we hope it will create more happiness for us. I have an illustration for you like that. Imagine that you are doing the job you love, which means from this perspective you have 8 points. In addition to working hours, you sometimes do more volunteer activities and it brings some happiness to you. For example, you have 7 more points, and then on the weekend you organize a family gathering for everyone to create. The carefree and happy atmosphere in the family gives us 7 more points. Of course, there will be many other aspects of happiness, but here I just take a simple example of a few aspects of happiness like that. The total amount of happiness we have is 22 points. We meet and love someone, but unfortunately that person only wants you to spend all your time with them. You no longer have time to meet friends, to do activities or work. What you like in general is all the time you spend with that guy or that girl, but of course, in return you will get 10 out of 10 points of happiness from love. But apparently those happiness points are no longer there. So the total amount of happiness we had at that time was 10/30ths, which to me is a toxic form of love. So what should love be like? In my opinion, our lives are when we ride bicycles. Normally, our cycling journey is already fun and our strength is already strong. We alone can pedal 50 kilometers, for example, at a speed of 15 kilometers per hour, and somewhere there is that woman somewhere who also has a fun journey and similar productivity. Like that. Now that 2 people decide to come together, thanks to now having 2 people pedaling at the same time, the distance we can go is farther and the speed is also faster, and importantly throughout the journey. What we have now is even more fun than when we go alone. That's positive love. Because we not only bring happiness and love to each other, but we also make other aspects of our lives better. Now, imagine if, after a certain period of time, one of the two people no longer wanted to ride the bike throughout the journey, then there would be friction because that person wouldn't pedal anymore. The other person has to brace their back and pedal for both of them, so obviously the speed will decrease and the distance it can travel will also decrease. That means everything is worse than when we ride a bike alone. That is, there is only one person left to pedal, and the worst case is that both people don't want to pedal anymore. Then the bike will stand still in one place. It's clear that in such a case, what we should do is go back to riding our own bike like before. Because before, our journey was already very fun when we put it together. If we don't make things better, we should at least give people a chance to have fun. The same again, or more ideally meet someone else cycling with them. That was my first perspective. It's love, it has to make both of us better, but if it makes us worse, we should go back to going our own way. There's no reason to stick together and ruin our lives. My second perspective is that all love has an expiration date. Some love has an expiration date of 1 year. Some love has an expiration date of 10 years. Some love has an expiration date of 50 years. Those who are very lucky will have it. Love lasts 100 years, meaning it expires when one of the two people passes away. But it will expire anyway. And once we can think in that way, that love always has an expiration date, we will begin to appreciate the time we have together more. I see some people love each other for 3 years, 5 years, and when they break up, they bitterly think that they wasted 5 years of their life in a useless relationship. Instead, why don't we think we've had 5 happy years together? Because it's clear that if it weren't for that person traveling with me for 5 years, I probably wouldn't have had those 5 years of happiness. I think of it like a car. A car also has an expiration date, and whether it is durable or not depends on how we use it, whether we take care of it every day or not, whether we carry out insurance maintenance on time or not. There are people who buy a car and then just get used to it without any maintenance. Then when it has a problem they act surprised and then start having symptoms. Instead of diving in to dissect and understand the problem and find ways to fix it, just leave it there and throw it away carelessly. Then obviously it will come to a point where it is completely damaged and cannot be repaired anymore. But there's a very funny thing. If a car can't be repaired and can no longer run, they still keep that car. Every day they push that car around on the road, becoming a burden that they cannot do anything else. Listening to me describe it, you think it's very unreasonable, right? But just look around a little and you'll see that there are many cases where the love of two people has been separated for a long time. Their car is rusted beyond repair, but instead of sitting down to talk to each other, that now the fact that we are together can no longer create happiness. On the contrary, it only creates sadness. Sadness. Instead of continuing creating sad days, we let each other go our own way. We can continue to see each other as friends and even relatives to support each other when needed, but we don't go together anymore like before. Instead of behaving civilly like that, those people continue to push their broken cars for the rest of their lives and miss out on opportunities to continue building and looking for happy days. For my life, most of these cases are because they are afraid. They are afraid of society's prejudices. They are afraid of the objections of people around them, or they are afraid of making their children suffer. I won't talk about the first case anymore because in my opinion, that is an unreasonable fear. Happiness is our happiness. Why should we care about other people's rules and words? The second case is more noteworthy, of course, when there is a child factor involved. We must consider carefully to see if the relationship is really beyond repair or not. If we can still try, it would be a pity if we haven't tried yet, but once we've tried everything but still can't try, I think it's better to let our children live far away from one of us than living in an environment where parents hate each other, is my second perspective. When the car is damaged beyond repair, don't push it around on the road. It won't help, it will make our journey heavier. When love can no longer be saved, then let each other go their separate ways. My third perspective is the perspective of weddings, and in my opinion weddings are really a very useless thing. This may sound a bit sensational, but let me analyze why I say it. So, first of all, that was the starting point of that wedding. It made an absurd starting point. You guys thought that after we got to know each other, we fell in love with each other. The love was beautiful and every day passed happily. Then suddenly one beautiful month came up and we came up with the idea that we had to own each other. Through something that is a wedding, just from the first motive alone it is already absurd. Because we are two people, not objects or slaves to be owned. After all, from the moment you decide to get married, You have to prepare all kinds of procedures, run around printing invitations, make a guest list, and then debate whether to invite this person or not inviting the other person, then having to book a restaurant and countless other things. That's why there is an entire industry in the market of people who help us with these stressful tasks. But even if we have money to hire a service, we will not be stressed because we are busy, but we will also be stressed because of the pressures in our heads that we will talk about in more detail later. The wedding is gradually not a joy for you, but you organize it as an obligation for your parents and relatives, as an opportunity for them to announce that they are my children. Have a husband, have a wife, have a proper wedding. Even worse, there are cases where they see the wedding as an opportunity to collect congratulatory money and an opportunity to get back the capital from the weddings they went to before. In this case, I don't know what else to say either. Because it's clear that we are taking our happiness away to do business. Going back to our story, instead of getting married like that, what is our goal so that in the end we want to move in together, right? In the past, when we woke up every morning and wanted to see each other's faces, we had to go out on a date and see each other so hard that we couldn't bear it. Why don't we just simply move in together and enjoy? It's just a life together. Why do we have to do all the complicated things that create so much stress for ourselves? If we had a little extra money, instead of using that money to get married, we could book a luxury resort on the island and stay there for a few weeks, enjoying happy days together. To mark a new beginning with just the two of you, you may need to announce it to the whole society, so you don't have to care about what others think of you. And if you are worried that doing so will make it difficult for your parents to speak with negative comments around you, remember that if your parents really love you, the last thing they care about is your happiness. Organizing a wedding does not give any guarantee that you will be happier, even through what I have said so far, and I will say more later. You will see that it even creates a risk that can make us even more unhappy. The second absurdity in terms of finances. Usually the vast majority of you come together in this case. If you don't have financial freedom yet, the two of you moving in together will have a lot of things to worry about right now instead of focusing on saving money to build financial freedom for your family. You guys spend a lot of money on an activity that, frankly speaking, is a useless eating and drinking activity. And in the case of a wedding to earn more money, I would like to excuse myself from discussing it here because of that thought. So different from my thoughts, the next dangerous aspect is that the wedding itself creates a pressure that instead of us being happy, we continue to be happy together and want to be happy. What's more, we'll move in and live together. Now, naturally, when we organize a wedding, it automatically creates a pressure that now the ceremony has passed, now I have lived with this person for life. Life is a very big commitment, and in most cases it is too much for you. So naturally it creates an extremely large pressure, and sometimes that pressure will create brilliance. Cracks in your good relationship. Because of such natural fears of pressure, instead of focusing on enjoying the happiness we have right in front of us, we create it and let it affect our happiness. Our current happiness is clearly an absurdity. The next one is also the idea that I took as the title of today's episode. That's a wish for 100 years of happiness that people keep wishing each other throughout the wedding. That sentence itself is an expectation, and if you don't understand expectations, you can go back and watch 2 episodes. Before, I explained very clearly about expectations, whose dangers go back to what we are talking about, love, which is something that only exists when it is only created by 2 sides, one side from our side and one side from the other person, but we cannot control the thoughts and actions of the other person. Feeling this way today, tomorrow people may act differently, so we cannot control the length of love, which means setting a goal of 100 years of happiness. The kind of expectation that we cannot control, but that kind of expectation can only lead to disappointment and finally the wish for 100 years of happiness. It will create the illusion that you still have a lot of time because we have 100 years. But think about it, if you don't know how long we've been together, it could be 1 year, it could be 3 years. So because I don't know how long we will be together, I will try to live each day to the fullest. You guys live to the fullest with your love every day, in case you find that the other person has something difficult. If you accept it, you will think it's okay. I don't know how much longer I'll be with this person, so I'll just let it go so I can focus on the happiness in front of me, or on the contrary, I'll think about it in a very destructive way. It's okay, I won't be with this girl for long anyway. I don't care about any of that right now, I'm just focusing on enjoying the happy days ahead, and that includes all the thoughts it consumes. As extreme as it is, it also leads to positive results, but if it is a thought that I have to live with this girl or this guy for 100 years or live forever, then how can I accept it now? Receiving such a smart girl, or how can I accept such a clumsy guy? It will ruin my whole life, and it is thoughts like that that make us forget the end. Enjoy the happiness right before your eyes. So why do people still bother with wedding planning? I have asked this question to many people and I usually get the same answer. Firstly, to make the person you love happy, and in most of these cases, the person you love here is a girl. By the way, here I also want to send a message to the girls that don't care about what people think of you. If you move in with the person you love and don't get married, then why do we need to care? Regardless of the negative comments of gossipy people, the important thing is that the two of you are together and that every day you are happy is the most important thing. The second answer is similar to the first answer. To be true to social traditions so that relatives and people around us do not have objections. Why should we care about what they think about us? Because that is our happiness, regardless of whether that person is a relative or a non-relative. The people, they use their standards, their thoughts, let them impose on the lives of others. They are usually people whose quality of life is not high, because for those who have a quality life, why do they have time to pay attention to the lives of others? So we have no reason for us to care about the thoughts or standards of such people. The people who truly love us, they only care about one thing. The only factor is whether we are happy or not. Finally, the third most popular answer is that you think that the wedding will guarantee you long-term happiness, and this thinking is extremely wrong. Because that wedding was just a party. Even the marriage certificate is just a piece of paper. Once there is no more love and no more happiness, even 100 pieces of paper cannot protect your marriage. Even if it can block you, you should throw that love away. Like the example of the car that broke down in my second example. Those are some of my thoughts in the aspect of love and marriage. Of course, this is just a personal perspective. My person. I also do not expect that the whole society will abandon these absurd things, but at least I want to share with you so that you can have another perspective, besides the perspectives that have already passed. In the past, we have returned to the true nature of love, which is two people coming together to create more happiness in each other's lives. It's just that simple. Don't worry. Care about bad customs. Care about what people are thinking. Those people will say a few words and many things, and then they will just return to their problems. Only happiness will stay with us. Secondly, we will be together as long as our journey creates happiness, like the example of a car. Please ask for maintenance. Maintain it regularly when it has problems. Try your best to fix it until the time comes when it can no longer be repaired. Then gently let each other go on their own path in a civilized way as possible, so that each person can find new happiness, so that as a result we have two more lives worth living, instead of the opposite or a failed life. And finally, remember that love has an expiration date, whether long or short, so let's cherish the time we use it. When it's gone, let's use it. Think that you were lucky enough to have a happy time instead of thinking that you wasted your time in a relationship that didn't last long and didn't have hundreds of years of happiness. Today's episode 1 took the title of Don't Wish Each Other 100 Years of Happiness. That wish is not necessarily bad, because it is people wishing each other a love that has an expiration date of 100 years, and that is a wish. Good intentions, but through what I have analyzed about the expectations of taking that as a goal, and the harmful effects of that goal, I think we should not pay much attention to the wishes. Or just listen to it and let it go and focus on living the happy days ahead. Unfortunately, we won't be together for 100 years. We'll only be together for one happy year, and then we'll break up. Both of us continue to look for other happy days. It is still a very good thing that at least we have had 1 year of happiness. Our life journey is a journey to collect memories. Happy days, so that at the end of our lives, when we look back, we have so many happy days. It means we have a happy life. Everything is simple, it's just that we don't have to do it. It becomes too complicated because of the traditions, prejudices, or old ways of thinking of the people around us. In the end, our happiness must be decided by ourselves. Our prejudices, that old thing, is not allowed to affect our happiness. I have been through marriage. My marriage ended in a very civilized and beautiful way. That is a blessing that not many people have. What I share in this marriage. Today's episode is drawn from my personal life. This is the first time I have mentioned this concept of privacy. Its goal is nothing more than for young people to have more self-esteem. Believe in taking control of your happiness and don't allow anyone to do anything that affects our happiness. I would like to end today's episode here. If you find this content useful, please please share it with your friends and relatives. In addition, YouTube's algorithm gives priority to those who are interested. The video has many likes, so if you like this video, please click on the like button to help more people know about our podcast. Thank you for watching and best wishes. Have a happy day with your loved ones and family.